The other day, someone asked me, what is meditation? And the best example would be that of a story where Ramana Maharishi explains meditation to a child, because the child asks the same question to their parents, and the parents say that they are unable to, uh, you know, unable to tell the child what is meditation, as per his satisfaction. So they take him to Ramana Maharishi, and Ramana Maharishi orders a meal for the child. Now the child is sitting just right next to Ramana Maharishi, and the food comes, and Ramana Maharishi says that only when I make a sound, you will start eating. And again, when I make a sound, you will stop eating. So the child is happy. I mean, it's playtime. So he starts eating, he starts gobbling up the food. But he keeps looking at Ramana Maharishi's face. He's just waiting, when will Ramana Maharishi say, and he has to stop. Now, when only the last morsel is left, Ramana Maharishi says, And then the child stops. But in any case, he eats up the last bite also. So Maharishi asks him, what were you doing? Where was your attention when you were doing this activity? So the child says that I was looking at the food and I was also looking at you. So Ramana Maharishi said that this is exactly what is meditation. When we do our daily duties, keeping the remembrance of God within us. That is true meditation. While sitting with our eyes closed is just an activity. But if the silence is seen, if the silence is felt and it percolates deep into the being, then that silence never leaves. Then you are with God. God that is not a separate entity in manifestation. A God that is your very nature, that is your very being, that is right here and now. So, in this tradition of Advaita, there has never been emphasis on a particular way to meditate, because the idea is to completely free oneself from all dialogues that are going on in the mind. So till there is a subject that thinks that they are doing meditation, the meditation does not happen. When you're sitting in the lotus posture, you're not meditating. When you're closing your eyes, you're not meditating. When you're focusing on the breath, you're not meditating. The meditation happens when there is no meditator, and meditation only remains. But till there is a part of you left trying some way or the other to experience something, the meditation does not happen. So once this effortlessness is recognized, then that becomes one's nature. And that is how one starts living in daily life with that awareness. And that is the whole idea. It is not to experience silence just for a couple of minutes. It is to embody this truth, your own being, into your daily living. There was a time when I used to think that by practicing for longer periods, I somehow will be able to, attain a lasting peace. But the more I meditated, the more deeply I tried to concentrate, the more frustration it was creating. While doing meditation, it is okay once nervous system, gets relaxed, and then it is okay to, it is easy to feel relaxed in those moments. But when you go about your life, when you meet people, some of who are not very kind, then what happens? It is not what happens in the moment that matters. What matters is what you think afterwards. What is your state of mind afterwards? That is what matters. What matters in the moment is not in anybody's control. It depends on the situation, the gravity of the situation, and your nature. Because it was very clear that someone like Nisargadatta Maharaj was reactive in the moment. That was his nature. While someone like Ramana Maharishi was calm, even during uh, moments of turbulence. That was his nature. But it's not that meditation did that to him. Ramana Maharishi was calm since the very beginning. Even as a child, when he used to sleep, his colleagues used to rough him up and he would not wake up. So let's spend a couple of minutes in this silence and then we will take up questions. You can open your eyes now. I remember when I got married, me and my wife, we went to this place in a hill station. It's called Shimla, which is very close to my hometown. So my wife had actually come from abroad, from Middle East. And in the mountains, the hotel where we were staying it was very silent. It was very quiet over there. So my wife actually got a bit scared of the silence. And she was like, I want to change the hotel. This is not a nice hotel. So we were all confused. All the arrangements were already made. So I actually took her out on the streets so that, she feels better. So that also happens sometimes, when we are not used to silence. Initially, it may feel as if something is not there. The emptiness can also be scary for some people. But the more you get to know it, the more it becomes your nature. Okay, so any questions, anybody? If you want to share anything, please feel free to. You can raise your hand and I will unmute you. I'm a bit new to this Zoom, so please bear with me. It takes me time to set up things.
Well, I could unmute myself if that is fine with you. Can you hear me?
Okay, Ravi.
Yeah.
Yes, Ravikant. Hold on, please. 1 second. Yes.
Great. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good.
Tell me.
Namaste.
Namaste.
So off late, actually, I am exploring some of the offerings or courses that are offered by kind of like young, but for sure they seem to have some experience or actually non-duality or actually turiya or something like that. Mostly from Western countries. But in a way, they are talking that once that experience happened, they had to undergo some sort of like catharsis or some sort of cleanup process or something really kind of like, coming up in their own psyche, and they have to really arrange for it or care for it and carefully really, attend to it. And it took a while and a lot of, I don't know what to call it, like heartburn or whatever it is. But then now they are offering things like, if you ever had an experience, then, we can help you through this process or something like that. Is it really true? Does everyone have to go through that? Or is there really a way to expedite this process of experience and then, reaching that state?
See, my my personal experience is that the awakening, when it just happens in a flash. So you just know that things are wrong, that things are not making sense in the world. But then afterwards, how deep it goes and how much you become integrated with the message, that is all part of the phenomenality. So for some people, the experience will be so deep that they will become a living embodiment of it. While for others, it may be that, deep down they're not at peace, but or they're putting up an appearance of being peaceful. So, I had this experience about 9 years back, and I did not decide to teach or even write about it. I started writing in 2019, and I had this experience in about 2015. And only recently I've started talking about it because I kept getting mails, and I had a YouTube channel, so there were a lot of questions in the comment section, and it's not possible to answer all of those. Plus I prefer this, one-to-one. So yes, it is. It may be true that yes, some people may have had that experience. It's not about age or anything, but at the same time, like Nisargadatta Maharaj would say that, unless you are at peace deep down, do not talk about it. So I have personally experienced this in the moments where I was not peaceful. I was in isolation for about 4.5 years. I did not speak to anybody about Advaita or any teaching for that matter. I never talk about spirituality or Advaita to anyone who does not ask for it. Only when you talk, then I talk about it. Otherwise, I don't talk about it. And I don't know much about the course, like as to what they are offering in the course, because there is actually nothing to offer other than that the reality is just here and now. This is all there is. The rest is all story. The way you feel, the way you perceive, that is of the mind. I'm not discounting it. That is also important. That is part of living. But at the same time, the reality is the space in which experiences happen. So once there is a switch, then the entire perception changes. So, I don't know about what people are offering. I don't, see all those channels. But I'm sure they have something good to convey. I'm sure that they have had some experiences, and they themselves may be on this path, maybe learning. So yes, it's all good. It's all part of the divine happening.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyone else wants to share something or ask something? It's not important that you always have to ask something. You can also share something. Yes, 1 second. This is Sarah.
Can you hear
Yes,
me?
Sarah. Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, okay. Thank you. I used to think that meditating was a little bit like cheating. Like we were supposed to live in this place with these emotions and feelings and sensations, and that meditating was a way to escape that, and that we shouldn't be doing that. But then as I did it, I realized that it was a little bit like a rest for the soul, and that I needed it, just like I needed sleep or food, And I also believed that I wanted to shut everything down, just like when you close your eyes, I wanted to shut off all my senses. But slowly I learned to accept that I was still able to hear sounds and feel things. So what I do is I pretend at first like I'm floating in a soup of creation, like I'm still here. I'm not escaping anything. I'm still feeling everything around me. And slowly very slowly. It has made me happy. I haven't had an experience of the closest thing to enlightenment, let's say, that I have is one time that I was driving and the person in front of me cut me off. Instead of getting angry, I started feeling immense love, like really, really love. It got so strong that I had to pull over because I started to shake and cry. It was somebody that I didn't know. So I guess that feeling of love is the closest thing I have to that, like magic or spark. So recently I've become a workaholic, and I don't want to be that way. I want to find time, to do what I used to do and to find myself again. So I thank you for this opportunity.
You're most welcome. And, it is very right. What you're saying is actually very important, because meditation has been projected in such a way by the media that it is a quick fix thing to, stop your mind or to change your emotions or to block your emotions. That has got nothing to do with meditation. Meditation is simply creating a space of watchfulness where you simply allow everything, including the fact that you're not able to accept certain emotions. So when that watchfulness increases, there is a shift in perception. Like in your case, that happened where the guy cut you, or whoever it was, they cut you, and you felt love. And Ramesh Balsekar's last words were that love people as if you created them. That was his last words. And I know sometimes, we get caught up in things. It is natural. So the idea is not to, label oneself that I'm doing this is undesirable, this is good, or this is bad. Because our default conditioning is that we try to label each and every action. We become so vigilant of it, right? But the entity that is vigilant is a part of the same movement. So one that is saying that I am a workaholic, and the one that is saying I should not be a workaholic is a part of the same movement, right? So what happens is, Jiddu Krishnamurti, he says that people think that meditation is going to set the house in order, right? But it's not that way. It's the other way around. When you set your house in order, the meditation happens. And that brings immense clarity, because it is not your responsibility to do anything. Everything will be done once you completely surrender to what is. And if you cannot surrender to what is, even that can be watched. So you see, when we sit in meditation without any expectation, without any intent, we are simply being present to what is. So we are allowing all emotions, all thoughts to flow, to be the way they are. And eventually what happens, at some time, one experiences a shift in perception. Then the awareness, this is just my concept. So I'm just, it's not exactly this way. I'm just trying to explain it in this manner. This is the best I can come up with. The thing is that the awareness comes in the foreground, and all the content that is happening, my life, my work, my family, my relationships, this, that, all those things, they go in the background. It's not that we become disengaged. In fact, our engagement with the world increases. It's just that we don't get involved. So the only, I have spoken to so many people who did not have any experience, but yet they have a very strong understanding. So it's not necessary that every time an experience has to happen. My experience was very ordinary. It was very ordinary. It was it was just, I felt a complete union, and I was in a space where there was no sense of personal existence, separate existence. And after that, actually, my troubles began. It was not that after that, my life was easy. After that, I experienced that bliss for a moment, and then I started chasing it. And the more effort I put, the more frustrated it started becoming. So the whole idea was to completely drop everything. If it comes, it comes. If it doesn't come, let it be. So that's why, this is the reason why I have started this morning meditation session. It's just meant to be quiet for a couple of minutes. And, who knows, when you get this awareness and there is a shift in perception, and then that awareness stays with you throughout. Okay. Okay, so there is a question. There is a comment. Thank you so much. It was wonderful experience sitting silent. Thank you. Thank you. There is one question. Any tips on being in the remembrance of the divine throughout the day and being in awe of this existence? Yes. Okay, this is a good question. Now, you see, the remembrance of God, so this is exactly what I was mentioning earlier, that, once you have experienced silence in some way, there is a tendency of the ego to re-experience that. So ego starts a movement. It says that, okay, let me be vigilant, let me sit more in meditation so that I experience more silence. But you see, it is not like that. You are not in charge of when the remembrance will come. The remembrance comes on its own. But when it comes, accept it, be with it, and when it goes, allow it to leave. Whenever it comes, whenever you remember, like in case of Sarah, what happened? The person cut, right? Now, instead of anger, a wisdom came and she felt love. Did she choose that action? No, she did not choose that action. That is the grace of God. That is the grace, that is the grace of the presence that happened. She became present and she felt love because she did not see that scene as, as someone separate doing a separate thing. She was in union. Only in union you can feel love. Disconnected in separation, you can never feel love, the true love. So I say that whenever you remember, whenever the remembrance comes, and it comes to everybody, then be in that. And slowly what will happen is that the moments of remembrance will start increasing as and when your mind becomes more and more silent, quiet. And then you will see that you do not have to disconnect with the world to be in love. You can see things the way they are, and that is love. That is true love, because it does not depend on form. Okay, any other question?
Yeah, one from me. So it's a question on experience both. So I often
Okay.
see myself feeling very guilty. So now I know, like, the only thing you can do is surrendering to the present. So surrendering to the now. But I often feel very guilty that maybe if I had known about this, I would have saved a lot of suffering, a lot of time waste. I would have chosen things, I would have made wiser decisions, like in past few years. And so that's what. So I feel guilty that had I known these things before.
Yes, this is the sense of personal identification. which thinks that it is in charge, right? It is in control. Our whole suffering is based on separation. We think that we are separate entity living separate lives, and that by controlling certain actions, we can change things. Now, once this is clear that there is no individual doer of anything, and that things happen according to conditioning, which is God's will, in that only the true surrender can come. For me, this was very clear that everything is God's will. Now, of course, when we are in those moments, when we are feeling sad, or when we are feeling a little restless, we think like this. The ego mind, the thinking mind, it starts a chain of thoughts that I should have done this, I should have done that. But the question is, where is the doer? You are simply what your conditioning has made you. You could not have acted otherwise. And this message actually sheds a lot of load from the shoulders, because we carry so much guilt, but we end up repeating the same things over and over again. The guilt never actually changes us unless it is a sincere feeling, a sincere regret that comes from within. And this is normal human conditioning. So know that, the teaching says, the message says that know that there is no individual doer. And Ramesh's favorite quote was, events happen, deeds are done, but there is no individual doer thereof. Even the Bhagavad Gita says this, there is no individual doer thereof. So what you're experiencing is, at the center of it is the sense of personal identification, where the ego thinks that it is the doer of actions. And right now, what is disrupting your peace is the thinking that what I could have done different to have a different outcome. But who is it that wants a different outcome? Who is it that thinks that things would have been better? How do you know things would have been better? That is the main thing.
Yeah.
Right? And the more we try to control things, change circumstances, the more painful life becomes. Now, it does not mean that one does not act in the moment, right? In the moment, you act according to whatever conditioning you have, right? Say, for example, I'll just give you one example. We see an accident happening on the road, right? Or let's say two people fighting on the road. And then this third person comes along. This person is a sage, a person with understanding, complete understanding that no one is the doer. Now, the sage will either intervene or the sage will not intervene. That depends on the sage's conditioning, right? So if the sage is brought up in an environment like mine, right? I come from Punjab. So I'm more likely to, I'm not a sage, by the way. Let me make it very clear. I'm a completely ordinary person. But my conditioning is that I would react and fight, or intervene. I would say intervene. That is my conditioning. Now, if the sage ends up hurting someone in that act, the sage will never create a guilt, because sage knows that what happened in the moment. And after that, once the moment is over, the sage accepts complete responsibility of what is going to happen. Maybe the sage is going to go to the jail, prison. That is also accepted by the sage. Whereas in the second scenario, the sage simply watches what is happening and does not intervene and just passes by. That is also conditioning. So that sage will not question that, why didn't I intervene? Why did I behave like a coward? I should have done something about the situation. Nobody is in is in control of what happens in the moment. It is only the thinking mind that comes up afterwards and say, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that, then my life would have been better. My life, I should have done. You see, if you pay attention to these words, I, me, my, mine, right? Then you see that a story builds up. If you don't use these words, then there is actually no story. And you see everything as a happening. That's why I say that this meditation practice that we are doing, I don't call it a practice. It has to come, the understanding has to come first. And the understanding is very simple, that there is no individual doer of anything. But yes, things do happen. That is the only understanding. So once you understand that, you don't try to control anything. You don't try to block your thought. You don't try to change your thinking. You simply see what is happening. And in that seeing, everything gets settled, because it is understood that what is happening is God's will. So there is no point, feeling guilty for what you could have done or the situation. That's an assumption by the ego. How do you know that even if things would have worked out, things would be better, things in the present condition would be better, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything anybody wants to share or ask? Actually, I know this question. Okay. There is a question. 1 second. All action, it seems, are to work out the personal story. Even the spiritual goals or doing meditation, it's like strong urge to change what is being experienced, what is being perceived by mind or senses, or sensed through senses. While the individual, it seems, has no choice in anything, at the level of intellect, I see that everything is just automatic. There are triggers and conditioned responses, but this doesn't sink in. Of course, this is what Maya is. This is called Maya. That there is a big difference between what the conscious mind is thinking and what is in the subconscious. And the union is deep integration. When we, when we use the word realization, self-realization, that's actually not an accurate word. There is no self to realize. But, we are bound by language, so we use these words. Non-duality is a very absurd word. Not two. You're describing one in terms of two. But that is, that is the only way we can explain a concept. So yes, you are quite correct in that assessment, that we try to control things, we try to build spiritual goals to attain this, to become better. That is all a part of the individual story, the ego with its sense of doership that wants to become better. The whole idea, when we say that we are not the doers, is that what you are is a product of two things: genetics and your conditioning. And of course, this conditioning changes if it is the will of universe. It is not that, you just accept everything. It's not an attitude of resignation, right? It is not that, one says that, oh, I will not do anything. Since everything is God's will, let me not do anything. Well, try it. Try not to do anything. You won't be able to do. If you cannot do anything, then you are Zen. But problem is that we, even when we are alone, we are with our thoughts. We are never truly alone. So you see, this is something which the intellect cannot crack. While I say that intellectual understanding is also very important, but at some point it has to go to the heart. Unless it goes to the heart, it is very difficult to bring about that integration. between the conscious and the subconscious. So the individual does not have to do anything, only allow watchfulness to happen. And in that watchfulness, everything is exposed and revealed. So you don't have to do anything. It's not your burden to carry. You just have to be still. And if you can't be still, even that's okay. Okay. So I think we'll conclude this session for today. Thank you all for joining.